Hey y'all, this is Tarnette. BJ and I have more answers to the question our friends, family, and coworkers ask, where y'all been? We're sharing our experiences and our opinion, and we hope you find it informative, inspiring, and even entertaining. In this episode, we talk about our visit to our last state, Alaska, and the journey it took to get there. We also share a tip on one of the best times we feel it is to travel to Alaska. To get notified of future videos, subscribe to this channel and select the notification bell. The first time we tried to go to Anchorage, Alaska was on Christmas Eve in 2022. A huge winter storm kept delaying our flight out of Orlando, Florida, to the point that we missed our connecting flight in Chicago, and we weren't going to make it there for a few days. So we got our money back on our refundable tickets and hung out in Florida until our bags came back from Anchorage. Had we made it there in 2022, we would have visited our 49th state and the 49th state in the U.S. Since that didn't happen, it became our last state to visit, and ironically, Alaska is considered the last frontier. Our last attempt to go to the last frontier was in early May of 2024, the day after our youngest child finished her high school graduation requirements. We thought it was a special time to go and finish visiting all the United States. We even kept that trip a secret from her so she could concentrate on her schoolwork. We thought that booking the trip in the spring would take the weather issues out of the equation, but as we sat in the Raleigh airport for several hours and kept getting notified of delays on our flight, we were quickly reminded of our experience in Orlando, and we weren't sure if we would make our connecting flight in Chicago again. However, we decided to persevere and try to make it to Chicago. Then if we couldn't get on the connecting flight that night, we would just try to get to Anchorage the next day. We had a 4-hour delay in Raleigh in total, and since we were supposed to have a 3-hour layover, it gave us a buffer. So when our connecting flight was also delayed, we still had a chance to make it on the flight. We felt we had the longest ride to the gate ever when we arrived in Chicago. We had to get from Concourse F to Concourse B during the time that our flight was boarding for Alaska. We were praying, speed walking, and running at times, and thank God we made it on that flight. Since the trip was a surprise, we didn't do a lot of research on what activities we would do or places we would eat. We just knew we wanted to see some animals that were unique to the region, try some Alaskan crab legs at a local restaurant, and do some shopping, which included getting our last shot class for the United States. Then we saw the snow-capped mountains everywhere, and we wanted to see more of them, and glaciers too, if we could. Some places that we visited include downtown Anchorage. We hung out there, stopped at the gift shop, and we even visited the Yall factory where we learned about the Alaskan knives. We went to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center in Portage. After seeing all of the animals, we also stopped by the Portage Lake that was nearby. Then we got a little nosy and wanted to go further south to Whittier to see glaciers because we thought we could see them on our own. We had to pay a toll to get through the one-lane tunnel that is shared with the railroad, and we got some lunch there and looked around, did some research, and we didn't see glaciers the first time we visited, so we did some more research and returned a few days later to go on the Phillips 26 glacier cruise. While we were on the cruise, it was rainy and snowy all day long, but the glaciers were still really cool. Another place we visited was Point Warrenzoff. This is supposed to be a great place for viewing the Northern Lights. We didn't see the northern lights, but we did spot a moose there, and we spotted a moose nearby at Earthquake Park. Another place we visited was a couple of lakes in the area. The first lake we visited was Lake Hood, which is near Aviation Museum. We were able to see some of the float planes or seaplanes take off and land, and there was a great unobstructed view of the mountains. For fishing, we tried DeLong Lake, which was quite relaxing, but we didn't catch any fish. So we went a little further down the road to Jewel Lake, and that was also relaxing, but we still didn't catch any fish. And this was our last day in Alaska, so we just enjoyed some time by the lakes before we got ready to depart the area. In between viewing some fabulous areas, we found good food and even ate at a few restaurants twice. Before we get into where we ate, we were supposed to get snow crab legs and king crab legs, but we never saw any snow crab legs on the menu. And one of the waitresses said that all the king crabs were coming from Russia at the time due to restrictions on fishing for the crab legs in Alaska. So much for fresh Alaskan crab legs. By the way, Russia was only 55 miles away. Most of the places that we ate were in Anchorage. We tried breakfast at Kriner's Diner. We also tried breakfast at Heidi's Family Restaurant. For snacks, we grabbed a reindeer sausage from Tia's Gourmet Sausage and Hot Dog, and a couple of spare ribs from the BBQ Kitch'n. The first place that we tried king crab was at HUMPY's Great Alaskan Alehouse. We also ate at Kinley's. We ate at Sweet 100, Sorrento's, and Simon and Seaford's Saloon and Grill. We tried some desserts in the mall from Cake Studio. And I mentioned that we ate at a couple of places twice. The first place that we ate at twice was the Moose Tooth, because they had some awesome wings and brownie. And the last place that we ate at twice was Swiftwater Seafood Cafe, which is in Whittier. And they had king crab also, but we got double the amount of crab legs that we got in Anchorage, and we paid the same price. Our travel tip for this episode is about visiting Alaska in May. We mentioned that we visited Anchorage the first part of May. Well, it didn't take long for us to find out that some spring activities were not available yet. The season did not start until mid-May or late May for several of the things we were interested in. Also, we wanted to see the northern lights, but the most likely chances to see them ended in April, and they are more visible when it's darker outside. During our visit, the weather was good. We had some snow and rain, but the average temperature was 50 degrees, which is like wintertime in northeastern North Carolina. Also, the daylight lasted from about 4 a.m. to 11 p.m., which is quite interesting. One thing we noticed is that most areas we visited were not busy and there weren't any long wait times. Then, as we were eating at Swiftwater, one of the workers told us that we were 2 weeks ahead of the crowd and we would normally have at least a 1 hour wait. Given the available activities, the weather, and the low crowds, we would probably visit Anchorage again around the same time, but maybe push it back a week to mid-May just to be able to do additional activities. Well, thanks for listening to our answers to the question, where y'all been? If you enjoyed it, like it and share it. For more travel details, subscribe to our channel and select the notification bell to get notified of new episodes.